All right, Will McLean, set up with 2 zones. What do we have here? Sticker's gone. She ain't got enough heat. I have pilot. We are set for 180. And our temperature is not 180. Well, she's kind of hot. Someone got a little pro press action there. We're not circulating fast enough. The boiler's big enough. Thermostat is set for 73 and it's reading 66. And it's been like this since they moved in 3 years ago. We have pitch there. We do. All right, let's see what's going on. This boiler's been neglected. Look at this old expansion, extra number 15 there, with that little doohickey right there. Haven't seen one of those in about 10 years. As she fired up, I raised the speed on the circulator, that willow circulator. I raised that up. And I'm guessing that's why that press coupling is there. Because they had a B&G 100 and the willow is a shorter. Could that be why? I don't know. The willow's a shorter circulator. So the problem is the house is cold. I'm questioning the aquastat. I don't know what my temperature is. And it sounds like not enough circulation without more information. So let's see what we're gonna do. All right, so we have a boiler that is properly sized for the house. She's been neglected. I got discharge on the relief valve there. Tank, no good. But I can't measure temperature, so I think we're not firing up high enough. So without going crazy, we're gonna take my thermal imaging camera. My temperature of the pipe is 157 degrees. This is the supply side of the system. So let's just try it on the copper. Let's see. Yes, we are gonna have some heat loss there, but we are leaving the boiler at 158 degrees. And when you have baseboard heat, right? You know, the design temperature, and people are gonna call me out on this, right? But the design temperature is 180 degrees, right? You get X amount of BTUs per X amount of linear foot at X temperature. When temperature is 180 degrees, you're good, right? As long as everything's sized right. Now, the other side of the coin here is that, well, Mikey pipes, you know, if the boiler's 155 degrees, that means you have less BTUs coming out of the boiler, which means that you're going to have not design temperature for the baseboard. And without confusing anything, let's say this thing had an outdoor reset sensor, temperature sensor, which modulates the boiler temperature. When it's 20 degrees like it is like today, you need 180 degrees. 100%. Like on my own boiler, like it was at 145 degrees up until last night. Right? Because like the temperatures in my house were hovering around the 60s, the mid-60s. So I bumped up the temperature on the Navien to 180 degrees. She's not condensing anymore. But, you know, when it's 19 degrees in the morning, you know, yeah, my window was open in the bedroom and it was cracked and my wife was all bundled up and it was 55 degrees in the bedroom. But outside the bedroom door, it was 66 degrees, which is what the thermostat was set to. So we have an issue with this aquastat here, right? And I'm just going to check some of the baseboard in the house and see what's going on there. Front entry foyer. We're not that hot. Let's check the pipe. You know, we're not getting the temperature that we need. It's 137 degrees there. Let's look at this baseboard, which when the cover's not on properly, you're not going to have natural convection. You know, the air cold swooping in, rising like this. You're not going to get that. So we're going to have to fix that, even though it's not really relevant. But our temperature is not that hot. We're 140 degrees on this one. We need to bring up that temperature. All right, Steven's got the drill set up. We are going to drill pilot hole. It's never been done. Oh, the big black thing fell on the floor. And we're gonna take the test out. Oh, it's charging the truck. That's where Steven went. And I was explaining to the homeowner that this thing should be replaced. It's been neglected, right? That's not professionally maintained, you know. The boiler room is not a graveyard. She's complaining about not having enough hot water to bathe her 3 kids. This water heater's from the 90s. It needs to go. You know, this would be an ideal candidate for a new Whale McLean or Burnham with an indirect water heater. She's got a growing family. She's gonna run out of hot water even with a 75-gallon water heater. So let's test combustion, see what this thing's doing. I wanna raise up the aquastat and use the camera without replacing the tridicator gauge and see what temperature we can get this boiler up to safely. But first, we must use our testo. All right, Steven, I'll let you get some hands-on today. All right, right about halfway out. I'm gonna raise up this aquastat. I'm gonna go to 200. Right there. See that? Okay. We're looking at the combustion results. Again, when she first fires up, if this thing goes up to like 2,000, pull it out immediately. When you first turn it on, what, 2,000? Not the available free air, the other one.
Oh.
But when this thing first fires up, she's going to produce higher amounts of carbon monoxide. As she cools off, the initial startup is where you're going to have that, right? Because it's not burning. Is that in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay. So as she's running now, you notice the numbers are dropping. My oxygen is getting back down to where I like to see it. My carbon monoxide is now just above 500 and dropping. We're going to watch this and let this run for a good 10-15 minutes. But I'm also going to use my thermal imaging camera, my FLIR i7, and monitor the supply temperature leaving the boiler. All right? And again, I like to bring this down to under 50. And like I said, this thing's been neglected. Those burner tubes, I'm sure, are pretty dirty. You can take a look inside that combustion chamber. Not terrible, but she's been neglected. You know, we're at 121 and dropping still, so that initial startup, you know.
Scary.
It is, agreed. But let's take a look at that stack temperature. We're at 680 degrees. She is literally cooking. All right, and look at our efficiency, how it drops. You know, we're hovering right under 75%. And the best way to look at this is that, think about it. For every $1 that this thing uses, 74 cents is heating the house. 25 cents and change is going up the flue. 700 degrees, like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not saying I can condemn it because only the utility company can condemn it, but she is producing under 50 particles per million of carbon monoxide, so that's safe. But she is cooking, and just wasting so much energy. 705 degrees. Look at that, guys. 706. We're at 74.2% efficiency. And our temperature is 177 degrees, right, leaving the boiler. Now we have 180 degrees of temperature leaving this boiler. But so I want to crank this down until the flame cuts off. Just a little bit more. A little bit more. Slowly adjusting this. So right around 100 and looks like 190, maybe 188. Let's go up a little bit right there. Okay, we're at 180. But we have, once it stops, you might as well hit pause because you're just,
Copy.
All right? So let's tell her the good news. All right.
That's a wonderful face.
At least you're taking
Even
like
under
a
the mask, I could tell.
at least you're taking it like a champ, a trooper.
Okay.
You are a perfect candidate for a new boiler.
boiler.
And let's take a step further.
Why am I not surprised?
You have 3 kids, but you still have a growing family.
Yeah.
You're gonna run out of space in this house. You know, before you run out of hot water, if you let me do what I want to do.
What does that mean?
Let's take out the boiler. Now I know certain things. Tankless is out of the question because of religious reasons. So like a tankless water heater or boiler.
I don't know.
It's a box that hangs on the wall and it instantaneously heats the water, and you have an infinite amount of hot water. But you can't, because on Yontif, you can't ignite the unit. There are complicated ways around it, but...
You know way more than I do. Okay,
no, I just already know, because you're a religious family, so I already know. Okay. But there are options when replacing a boiler. You have what we call an atmospheric boiler. It's a cast iron boiler, it's reliable, it will last, 50 years, generally.
Oh, really?
Right? You'll replace parts on it, but...
20, I don't know. Okay.
No, it's a cast iron boiler. Listen, that boiler's from the late 70s, early 80s. And
older than I am, okay.
close to my age too, though. Because you're also running out of hot water, what I would do is we take out the boiler. Everything you see in that room goes away, right? We take out the boiler, we get a new one, and we can address the zones later. I don't know what your end plan with this house is. I know you moved in 3 years ago, but are you going to be here in 10 years, or are you going to be here in 20 years, or 5 years? That's a good question because to answer, because you still have one thermostat with 3 floors.
Right.
And I don't want you to renovate your house to add more zones, but if the time does come when you're going to renovate the house, the boiler could be already prepared for additional zones. Or we can just leave a cap on one end, and you can always add the piping after the fact, if and when that time does come.
Right.
I say we rip out everything that's in that boiler room, put in a boiler that's appropriately sized, like this one is there now, and also add a tank to the boiler, similar to what you have there now, and I'll talk about pros and cons in a second.
Yeah.
And the boiler will heat this tank of water, right? And you'll have upwards of 300 gallons of hot water an hour at your disposal.
What do we have now?
That's a 50-gallon water heater that is probably producing maybe 30 gallons of hot water, just because of the sediment at the bottom. Because again, the number one problem here in the South Shore is high concentrations of iron that come in the water and just clogs up everything. And there's also sediment and scale built up inside there, and it's an old tank.
It also probably wasn't properly serviced, right?
Yeah, I doubt it.
Right.
Because you're supposed to be flushing it out once a year. And don't do it now because you pull the scales.
How do I know a new homeowner, right?
The pros are it's the second most efficient way of heating water. You'll have an abundance of hot water with a limit. 300 gallons of hot water is a lot.
Yeah, sounds like a lot.
The drawback is when the power goes out, you'll have whatever water's left in that tank until the power's back on. With what you have there now, as long as the gas is still flowing to this house, you'll have hot water.
So basically you're going to convert the hot water from gas to...
From gas to boiler. Because the boiler, right now you have a boiler that heats this one whole zone, this whole house. You'll have another zone in the boiler, which will exclusively heat just the tank.
So now it's being heated by gas. So you're saying you're going to sever...
So you'll have a tank that's only fueled by the boiler, as opposed to now having a tank that's fueled by totally separate than the boiler. The boiler is its own machine, the water heater is its own machine.
And the water heater is now heated by gas?
Right now it's heated by gas. Separate machine. That's the only drawback.
Why can't we get new of both?
You can, yes. Or alternatively, like I said, let me have my way, because I'm thinking future. Yeah, right now you have 3 kids. Let's say you have 2 more, 3 more. God bless you.
Right.
But you're eventually, even a 50-gallon or even a 75-gallon, you will run out of hot water. Eventually, depends on the load. So the bigger the family, less water. Because back-to-back showers, the kids get older.
Yeah.
Especially girls who like to take long showers. But now let's talk about why I came up here with a smile on my face and said thank you for taking like a champ. On a typical,
so that was the good news, in other words.
Yeah. The boiler, thank God, is not producing any kind of lethal carbon monoxide. I like my rule of thumb. I'll confuse you, but I'll explain it. When you have 0 carbon monoxide, you have perfect flame. what we call combustion.
Okay.
Your carbon monoxide detectors that go off in the house go off at 400.
Okay.
I like to see anything under 50 running in a house.
Oh,
Your boiler is running at 22.
so that's good.
It's very good. It's safe
Right.
for carbon monoxide. The bad part about what's going on with your boiler is the exhaust temperature. The temperature that's going up the chimney. On a traditional boiler like you have, with the age, we're close to 500 degrees with age, right? New boiler, 15, 20 years old, maybe hovering around 400 degrees. Yours is over 700. It's cooking, literally. And the flame is not being absorbed by the boiler itself. So the flame is basically going right up the boiler and up the chimney. And see, you take it like a champ. Good, thank you. Thank you. I hope I'm explaining this in good layman's terms. And
I think I'm understanding it, so explain it now to my husband. That's going to be a separate thing. But
if you had high amounts of carbon monoxide, that coming out of the boiler, which would then be going up the chimney, but that's generally when you have a bad gas valve and or the inside of the boiler is what we call carbonized. Like when you take a flame and take it to the bottom of a pot, unless the flame is perfect, the pot becomes black. That's carbon. All right? You don't have that with your gas cooktop because it's the perfect flame at the perfect height off of the flame. And you don't really get that. Sometimes you do, right? Depends on the pot you're using, if pasta and things like that. But that's what carbon boiler means, or carbonized boiler. But you don't have that because you have very low carbon monoxide. So the flame is literally just going right up the boiler, not being absorbed by the boiler, which is then the water that it's trying to heat the house with, and going up. So now the good news is, we're going to let it run up 3 more times, or a few more times. I raised the temperature on that old aquastat that we spoke about, that was set to 180 degrees. I raised it to a little bit over 190, right? Still safe, right? And the temperature leaving the boiler, right on top, that first pipe that then goes to the house, is right around 180 degrees, 181 actually. So we raised the boiler temperature from 157 degrees to 181 degrees, and now the house will be warmer as long as all those baseboard covers are on properly, and as long as you don't block natural convection of water flowing, of air flowing, sorry. Did I confuse you?
So you're saying like the one thing you wanted to try was working for that, but it's still overall not where we need it to be.
Well, it is now. But, I don't want you to spend money on this thing unless it's absolutely necessary. Like, do I really need a temperature and pressure gauge? Yes, I need one. If we're going to replace, get rid of the drippingness that's going on in the back of the boiler, which now will probably be worse because now the temperature is higher. Remember that closed system we spoke about? Temperature increases, pressure increases, and it gets absorbed by the expansion tank, which you have 2 of. But for example, if we're going to replace an expansion tank, then you're going to also replace the gauge, the temperature and pressure gauge that's on the boiler. But like I said, you're best suited for a new boiler, a new water heater, whether it's attached to the boiler or not. That's the best bang for your buck. And again, I'm not here to sell you a boiler. I'm just giving you the facts.
Right.
Professional facts.
Right, thanks. First of all, how much are we talking is in a boiler?
I can calculate it for you. Okay.
Okay. And so when you said an idea for us would be to get both connected, right?
So that'd be
heated by the boiler.
Yes.
Why wouldn't we do the way it is now?
You can.
In the event, like you said, if the electricity goes down.
Because there's limitations. Like I can give you a brand new 50-gallon water heater. I wouldn't go with 75. It just wastes so much energy, so much gas to just heat a that you're only using for showers. That's
how
one
much,
of the most.
How much do we have now?
I'm almost positive it's a 50. Let me double check that. Let me just double check that real quick. I was just looking at it, but how we doing, Steven? I'm curious. I think this is a 50. Yeah, this is more. We got a 50. Yep. Sears Roebuck from really 2008. I'm shocked. Look at that. 2008. Huh. Interesting. 50-gallon from 2008. So she's only 13 years old. But she hasn't been maintained.
The gas piping is sufficient. All right, let's put together a proposal for her. The only problem here is that there's just too many things going on here. And once you start, where do you stop? So like, we need to replace the expansion tank, right? And of course, hang that in the proper orientation, so upside down, not this way, right? And yesterday I posted a video talking about the expansion tank, right? And I uploaded the link, you know, in the description box. She came on at 167, okay. This is the wrong orientation, it needs to be pointed down. But if I raise the expansion tank, then I really need to get rid of that one over there. If I get rid of that one, I should just, you know, it just compounds. And I got the relief valve. I got to replace that one. I got to replace the tridecator gauge. There's just so much going on here. Like, at one point, and then I also got to replace the aquastat relay because it's not accurate anymore. All right, so, and the automatic air vent, that one over there. It's like, once you stop, you don't, you know, how far do you take this thing? So there comes a point where, is it cost effective? And it's not, because she's running at 74.70, oh, where is the efficiency? 77% efficiency, which, not terrible, but she's been neglected. All right, let's see what we're gonna do.